A story a week, the mind's masterpiece, a work of art from heart to heart. Tales of wonder, wonder she inspires. Upon her canvas, worlds are built, hearts are healed, hopes restored, dreams revealed, puzzles solved, faiths take flight, good works are born. A story a week. Sit back and relish this week's story. Faith is calling. Fika, a young teenager, came back from school, his stomach rumbling. He rushed into the kitchen, only to find that his mom had just started cooking. With hunger making a scene in his belly, he decided to nap the time away. Wrapped tightly in his blanket, he lay still until his mom knocked to check on him, holding out some leftover croissants from breakfast. Would you want these to hold over? At the mention of food, Fika flung off the blanket and reached out eagerly. After eating the croissants, he didn't feel like sleeping anymore. He couldn't play his gadget too, for the house rules forbade gadgets within the week so the kids could focus on schoolwork. So he went to the bookshelf to search for something to read. His fingers brushed past a few novels until it landed on a Bible, which was gifted to him by a friend of his father's on his 13th birthday. He didn't read it every day, but he had a soft spot for the stories inside. To him, they felt heroic, full of people who stood strong and did brave things. He opened it up and flipped through until he stumbled into the book of Hebrews chapter 11. The stories gripped him. Abel, Enoch, Abraham, Sarah, Moses, all doing this huge dramatic act of faith. He got curious. "Mom," he called, heading back to the kitchen. "Yes, boy," she answered, staring the tomatoes. "I was reading Hebrews 11, he said. All these people, Abel, Noah, Abraham, they did really bold things, like building arks, blessing nations, even offering up their kids. Is that what faith always looks like, Mom?" She smiled and wiped her hands, then turned to him. "That's a good question, Fika." He pulled a dining chair close and listened as she opened the chapter and spoke to him. "You know," she began, "behind all these big dramatic acts were people who responded to God, even in quiet, simple ways. Each one was called, and they answered." She stared at the tomatoes again and added, "Faith doesn't wear one outfit. Sometimes it wears a crown. Sometimes it wears work boots. And sometimes it looks like a tired mom whispering a prayer at midnight." Fika let out a small laugh. "Like you, Mom," she grinned. "Exactly like me." Then she pointed back at the verses. "Look, Abel gave his best. Enoch walked with God. Noah built. Abraham obeyed. Sarah believed. Moses' mom hid him. Rahab welcomed strangers." They were all different, but they answered when faith called. And you know what else? These weren't perfect people, Fika. They weren't all pastors or prophets. Some were farmers, shepherds, warriors, moms, even people with messy past like Rahab. She was a prostitute. Some were bold, some were quiet, some made big mistakes, but they still chose to trust God. So faith doesn't just wear different outfits, it's also lived out by different kinds of people. God doesn't wait for someone to be perfect to call them. He just wants willing hearts. He looked thoughtful and he said, "So, what does faith look like for me, Mom?" "That's what you will have to discover day by day," she said, kissing his forehead. "Maybe it's telling the truth when it's hard, or being kind when no one is watching, or even choosing God's way when everyone else doesn't." So, faith is more of a journey than just one moment, Mom. "Exactly," she said. "And the best part, God doesn't compare our journeys. He just invites us to walk them." Fika had more to ask, but he didn't want to delay her cooking. An hour later, they ate together as a family. That night, before bed, Fika whispered a quiet prayer. God, I don't want to copy Abraham or Moses. I don't want to be like them. I just want to follow you. Show me what faith looks like for me. The next morning at school, Fika arrived just as the bell echoed down the hallway. He tightened his grip on his backpack, his mom's words still in his head. Faith doesn't look the same on everyone, but when it calls, it always asks for a step. Fika slid into his seat near the back of the classroom, barely settling in when his teacher, Mr. Metten, walked through the door, coffee mug in one hand and a stack of papers in the other. All right, everyone, he called out, setting the papers on his desk. Clear your desk and we've got some quick warm-up to do. Once the papers were handed out, he gave the prompt. Write down one thing you're shy to tell others. A quiet murmur swept through the class. Some kids laughed, some scribbled quickly. Fika paused, thinking. Then he wrote, I believe God is real, but I'm never bold enough to talk about him outside my house. He stared at the sentence. It felt raw. It felt vulnerable. He nearly erased it, but he didn't. The teacher walked around collecting the papers, and then the class continued. Later, as Fika packed his books into his locker, someone tapped his shoulder from behind. It was Sam, the new kid with the always half-zipped hoodie. I picked at your paper, Sam said. You wrote something about God, right? Fika froze, his stomach fluttered. That was brave, Sam added. You think? Fika asked. Sam nodded and said, I believe too, just that I don't talk about it much. Something warmed in Fika's chest as soon as he heard Sam acknowledge his belief in God, a quiet mix of joy and bravery he felt. Maybe faith didn't always look like parting seas or shutting lions' mouths. Maybe it looked like not erasing your words and discovering it encouraged someone else. Sam raised a hand for a high five. We are brave, he said. I think God is glad we didn't hide him. Yeah, Fika smiled. Faith is calling. I'm glad I answered, even if it's just a small start. That evening, he told his mom everything. She beamed. Bring your Bible, she said, pointing him to Hebrews 11. Then she placed her fingers after verse 31, which is the last verse of the chapter, and then she spoke out an imaginary verse. By faith, Fika defied fear and shared his belief in God. And God was pleased. And they both laughed.
Faith is calling. What is faith calling you to do today? Faith is calling.
Faith is Calling is a story of quiet courage, simple obedience, and the discovery that faith doesn't always come in loud, heroic acts, but also in small, unseen steps of trust. Faith doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, but it sure calls. And when you answer, you join a cloud of witnesses who walked by faith before you. If this story spoke to you, subscribe for more that inspire and lift your soul weekly. But until next time, remember that faith is still calling and your story is still being written. What is faith calling you to do?